Welcome to everyone who's here. Thank you guys for participating in the staff roundtable this month. The theme today is giving back to the arts. I'm very pleased to welcome my colleague Julia Clinton, who's the Director of Finance at Arrowmont, my friend Vernon Bowen, who is a longtime Arrowmont student, who's been a work study, is a friend of Arrowmont, and is a donor. And also to introduce George Jones III, who is a board member who's been coming to Arrowmont. I'm the most recent, George is second most recent by coming here 13 years. And he's a woodturner and a painter. And so today's conversation is going to focus on charitable giving and sort of the ins and outs and the behind the scenes about how why people and artists in particular are motivated to give back to the arts, how Arrowmont treats charitable giving, sort of the impact that has for our organization. And we welcome all of your questions and comments. If you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. You can ask any of your questions there, and I will introduce them as many as we can within the hour. But now I'm going to turn it over. I want to start with Julia. So if you'll give us about a 4 or 5 minute introduction to yourself, and then we'll pass it on to Vernon and then to George.
Okay. My name's Julia Clinton. Like Deborah said, I have been with Arrowmont since 2001, so I'm in my 20th year here now, which it's not something that I ever anticipated being in one place for that long, but it's been a very interesting ride. Nonetheless, it came about after David Willard was hired as director in the spring of 2001, and I was one of his first hires. And I have lived here in Sevier County my whole life, grew up here, born and raised. And I often joke and say that I work at an art school, but I'm not an artist. And that I think takes a lot of people by surprise, because I think they think everyone who works here at Arrowmont or works at an art school is an artist. But I very much am an appreciator of the arts, and I tell people all the time, as being an accountant, I'm very lucky because I get to work in such a creative environment. And so when it becomes a grind here in my office, I can always get out and walk through the galleries or walk around campus, and it's a great reprieve from what I might be currently working on.
Thanks, Julia. Vernon, will you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Vernon Bowen. I live in Columbia, South Carolina, and my wife of 40 years, Anita, is a quilt maker. And sometime years ago, I thought it might be fun to try to make fabric for her to use in her quilts, to make unique fabric, which unique doesn't mean it's necessarily any good. And so I got a couple of books and tried my hand at it, and she suggested that I go and take a class if I wanted to get good at it, which may have been, self-preservation on her part. But the local, or the state quilt guild in South Carolina, twice a year brings in nationally owned teachers, and she was emphasizing how much they can learn from that. So I had Ann Johnston's book, and I looked to see where she was teaching, and I saw Arrowmont, and I didn't know where it was. And then as I was in Gatlinburg, and I went, oh, that's there in 1971 with my high school band. And just didn't know. So I came and I took my first surface design class with Ann, and I just couldn't go back to work after that. I worked for the city of Columbia and was close to retirement. And again, with Anita's help, I was able to retire. And I wanted to return to Arrowmont, but it was, as we all know, it's kind of pricey to spend a week there. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend that money or if I thought it was worthwhile to spend that much money on this whim, perhaps. So I got involved with the work-study program and went to Arrowmont and worked in the kitchen. And so for the next 7 or 8 years, that's what I did. I was there from 3 to 5 weeks a year, taking mostly fiber-related classes. And that's what happened.
And now you're getting your degree, right? Are you finished quite?
No, I'm just taking classes at the University of South Carolina. I never did get a degree, and after taking these classes at Arrowmont, I felt very comfortable in taking classes at University of South Carolina. And if you're old enough, you can go tuition free, which is right up my alley, apparently. And it's been a lot of fun. It's altogether different with the academic standing. I've had 3 semesters of printmaking with Mary Robinson, who's a very good instructor. And it's nice to be in, and it's a lot like Arrowmont. There's a lot of young people in the class. When I first did work study at Arrowmont, I was staying in the dorm at Pollard with 3 guys whose age added up to mine, which was kind of odd. And when I started, I was old enough to be their parents, and now I guess I'm old enough to be their grandparents. But it's been a real learning experience. I have no art background before I started doing this. I used to say that I was either bereft of or unencumbered by an art education. But after all these years now, it seems like it's starting to catch on after 12 years. But it's when I started, I was just doing things for Anita, just making fabric that she would turn into things. And now I'm actually doing stuff on my own. So it's been a real learning experience for me. And it's been a lot of fun so far.
We do get the benefit of having fun where we work or where we volunteer or take classes. George, will you tell us more about yourself and your connection with Arrowmont?
Sure. I'm George Jones, recently selected for the Board of Governors there at the school. I've been going to Arrowmont now for about 13 years. I'm recently retired from the medical profession after 39 years at the local hospital. During that time, the last 13 years, at points, I would come to Arrowmont at least once a year, sometimes twice. I joke with some of my friends. I call Arrowmont, I used to call it daycare for adults. We'd go there and it's just such a relief to get totally awake, totally immersed in the art. Even though, I went there for the wood turning, I got to sort of hang out with the textile people, the potters, the painters, and it really was just a great time. I could go there and totally relax and go back to work, and it just was just a whole different environment. I started wood turning actually in high school, which was a few years ago, but and had stopped doing it. just a few. Had stopped doing it, and I was doing flat work. My wife and I, we redid an old Victorian house, and I went to a local wood show to buy a planer, and these guys were there turning wood. That was about 15, 16 years ago, and I stood there for 2 hours, never got my planer, went to a club meeting, won a gouge, and from there it was all sort of downhill. It's an addiction. And I found out about Arrowmont just reading about it in the catalog. I actually went there, didn't know anybody there, joined our local club here, but that first time that I was there, you're hooked. You just can't, you can't get away from it. Learned a lot. They brought great instructors in. And like I say, the biggest thing about the school is that you're not just locked into that wood turning. You get to go around all the other students and participants. We sort of get to go around and sort of blend into each other. Some of the potters would come over and take chunks of wood out of the things that we were doing. And, we'd go and looking for that. And in doing that, that's one of the things that sort of got me involved with the painters. I started hanging out with the painters. I've always liked abstract paintings. And the painting initially for me was going to be applied to my woodwork. And just sort of based on some of the instructors that had come there, everything doesn't have to be round and brown, just plain. So you get to add that little bit of, I call it lipstick, putting lipstick on the pieces. And was able to do that. Just coming there, I think that one of the biggest things that I have really liked doing over the years is drawing my friends into coming there. Everybody comes there. I've never seen anybody, at least that I've been associated with, that come there and don't want to come back. I have lifelong friends all across the country and really some around the world that, that I've met right there in Arrowmont. It's sort of one of those places, you get on campus. Gatlinburg is right there, the town of Gatlinburg. As some say, it's a different town. It's busy, but as soon as you get on campus, it's a whole different life. So that's been my thing. And when the board asked me about joining the board, how could you say no?
Well, we're certainly glad that you did say yes. Thank you, guys. And I failed to introduce myself earlier. My name's Deborah Sasquar. I work here at Arrowmont. I'm the marketing and communications manager. So it's really an honor to get to work with all of you in the capacities that you've helped Arrowmont and given back to Arrowmont. So I want to start by asking you all, as artists, as art appreciators, what has influenced your decision? Because you've also each given back to Arrowmont in various ways. So how does being an artist or being someone who loves art influence that decision to give back to the arts?
With me, you can't help but give back. I look at the art that's there when we come there. It's a way to relax, especially sort of in these, different times. It allows me to do that. And if you look at the others there, we've sponsored, scholarships. I work with the vets. I'm a retired, vet as well. So I look at what the school does for that. So in order to draw other folks in, and there are some there that can't afford it. It's not just throwaway money, when you come there, but you always leave with something. So being able to, to give that piece back, to donate a little bit that maybe help that student. There was a painter there once that I was there, and no, it was a potter, and she had these tools that she wanted. I happened to be in the store, and it was great to go up and buy those for her and give them to her right then. So just those little things I think really help. At least that's what works for me.
It's nice to give back to some place that's given a lot to me, and it makes it pretty easy. I guess a lot of the volunteer work I've done, working as an instructor's assistant, I really didn't consider volunteer work. I was getting something from it, but it was also, looking back, I think I put in over 200 hours there last year, but it was all pleasant hour. Yeah.
For me, I guess it's I've gotten to see it from both sides of the ledger, so to speak. I've seen the impact that it can have on students when we have donors who give money for scholarships or for endowments, or even the endowments that help offset funding for repairs and maintenance and other things, capital projects on campus. Then it frees those dollars up to allow us to do more things with and for the students and in the studios and for programming, and to see the impact that it has on a lot of these young students, especially young children, and they come through and they take these classes, and how it can open up their world and their perspective. It just makes you want to continue to do that and continue to see that look on their faces and see how that could change their arc on life.
Yeah, I know, Julia, you're from the area, so you said, you were saying a little earlier that your mother completed some of her education work here at Arrowmont. So can you say that you've seen an impact that the art that Arrowmont provides and the services that Arrowmont provides to the community have had, through living here and being here?
Absolutely. I think the most impactful thing as far as here in the county or here locally would be the outreach program that we do, and how it's been expanded out to outreach on the road, and um, some of my colleagues who have worked and led that program, um, the reaction that they have when they come back and they talk about the kids that they've gotten to teach and the instructors and the connection that they had with them, it means a lot. And you know that when you see that in those kids, that it's going to make a difference in their lives.
I imagine, Vernon, you were saying that, staying in the dorms with some of the other work studies who, span different age groups, that you saw kind of an impact too, that being at Arrowmont, having the opportunity to take classes at Arrowmont, that and the scholarship that you and Anita have created for them. Can you tell me a little bit more about that decision and how that influenced you?
Well, it's named after my aunt, who was didn't have any children. Was always very good to her family. When I was 12 years old, I rode the train from Illinois to Philadelphia, where she lived, and she took me all around Philadelphia. We went to the World's Fair in New York and another trip in New York. But I remember going to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and she was trying to explain to a 12-year-old the difference between a Manet and a Monet. She was just very supportive of things I did, even if they were wrong-minded. When I first went off to college and told her I was going to be a theater major, she just barely rolled her eyes, which, and so our financial situation changed. She left us some money, had a little windfall of money, and just thought this would be a good way to give back. I remember working in the kitchen one day with the young guy, and he was saying that, I wish I'd have known about this place 3 years ago. And I was like, damn, I wish I'd known about it 40 years ago. Because I had no idea that, places like this existed. And it's just, to be able to go and just take a class, which I really haven't done that often. I've done it a couple of times. It's a real luxury to not have to leave class early to go work in the kitchen and get back later and, put in a little over 20 hours a week while you're in class. And it's a lot of work. And I was thinking that since I spent all my time in the kitchen, all those years working in the kitchen, that'd be a good place to apply it. And that the person in charge of the kitchen, I guess like Jared is now, they know who comes in, they know who works. Not everybody does, but you show up on time with a good attitude and just get it done. And I've also found that the instructors that I've had have always been very understanding of that. They seem to like the fact that they're working so hard just to be there, that they're very understanding. They won't do any kind of instruction during the time you have to be gone. So yeah, to be there and just go to class and eat, all day long. And I think my aunt would approve of that spending of the money.
Well, and George, your role now at Arrowmont has gone from being a student and a supporter to now being a board member. So what do you think, your service to Arrowmont as a board member, like how does kind of giving back or charitable giving, how does that play into kind of what motivated you to join the board or how you see your role?
Well, I'm going to always be a student because I'm going to always come there. So, that's going to be forefront. Being on the board, I've really seen a lot of things, all of the effort that goes in behind the scenes to make the place run. You really get a whole different perspective on seeing what these folks who are, spending their time and a lot of times, their monies to make the thing, to make the school go. There's folks that I've really admired, from afar that you didn't realize that they were there pulling the strings to make it go. Because, even though it's expensive to go there, that's just to me a small part of what it takes to make what Julia does work. You know, you need those people, you know, from the outside to come in to, you know, to do those donations, to understand and what really the school, I look at what the school does for that entire city as well too. I mean, I think it's a classy place to go. And like I say, you come, you turn up that little street there and you get totally lost. That's why I think, you know, once you go there, you know, you have to come back. But being a board member, you know, I just want to do, it makes you really want to do more now. You know, I want to come and, you know, come and be the student. I want to do whatever it takes to make the school go, because like I said, I've really got that internal view now. And I think if everybody could see, you know, what it really takes to make you guys and that school what it is, you know, you'd be amazed. I'm amazed, you know, what's going on. So that's sort of where I sit with it.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, George. I know when I first joined the staff, I worked in some nonprofits before coming to Arrowmont, but I was kind of amazed at how much goes into operating a historic campus, a large campus. You know, we have 10, you know, different studios that we equip. Julia, can you speak a little bit to, and you guys have also mentioned that coming to Arrowmont isn't something that can be taken lightly or taken for granted. It's an expenditure for someone, and it's not just a throwaway thing that can be done. But Julia, can you tell me, or can you tell all of us a little bit more about the impact that charitable giving has? Like, where does that fall into the budget, and why do we ask for money? Like, why is that something that's important for Arrowmont to do when we?
It's so important. And it's so interesting to hear Vernon talk about the work study program and George talk about coming here and taking classes and now being on the board, because I think it takes different touches like that to get a fuller appreciation for what it's like to be a part of this organization, especially in a year like this, that it's been so difficult to continue to try and operate. Of course, everyone knows we had to cancel all of our programming pretty much for the entire year. And I kind of like to think about the programming and the fundraising. It's kind of like a scale or an equilibrium, you know. So if one is kind of light in the scale, the other one has to pick the pace. And so our donors absolutely have been invaluable to us, and it's allowed us through coming off our capital campaign and being in the position that we're in now, for us to be able to stay open like we have this year during this very strange time we're all living through. And even when it's normal operating circumstances, when we have work studies here and we have studio assistants here, it's amazing the offset of workforce that they provide for the school. I mean, it can't be said enough how important and how valuable that is. And they work so hard and they do such a good job, and it makes what we do throughout the year, makes what the students get to experience, the instructors get to experience, it makes it all work. And so whether it's they're giving through their time or their talents or their dollars, everyone to some extent is a donor around here. And when I first came to work here, I'd never worked in a nonprofit. And so I had come from the corporate and public accounting side of the world. And when I was approached about the job, I spoke with my mentor about it and told her what I was thinking about doing. And she said, I don't know, nonprofit accounting, it's a whole different animal. I was like, oh, it'll be okay. Of course, I was young and naive and didn't know the difference. And so I just jumped right in with both feet. And it was very different. And it probably took a learning curve of about 12 months to figure it all out. And it continues to change, and we continue to have different challenges. And like I've told Fran Day, our institutional advancement director, that we had lived under a scarcity mentality for so long, and coming off the capital campaign, you know, that it provides new challenges. You know, even though we have much greater funding sources now, they all have different challenges. It just depends on which way you're looking at it.
Yeah, Fran is a pretty funny individual, and she is fond of saying that, you know, she doesn't need these constant crises every 2 years to be able to do her job well, which is to fundraise.
Right.
It does seem that this decade has presented different challenges for Arrowmont every couple of years, and of course this pandemic being a challenge for everyone everywhere.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned something, Julia, that I think is interesting, is that there's kind of a difference between giving time, giving money, or giving artwork, but that it's all giving. It all helps Arrowmont's mission and Arrowmont to operate. Vernon and George, as artists in your own right, what's the deciding factor for you if someone asks you to donate work, or to donate time, or to donate money?
I'll look at, for example, we just did the thing with the Super Bowl, you know, donating that. And, you know, I was able to donate a little bit from it. And what was good about that is I was actually able to take funds from my artwork to do it. So that was a plus. So I just don't see any way that you can go wrong with it, you know. And like Julia say, in whatever position you're in, I think that was great. It's all about giving, you know, and I think to me, that sums it all up.
It's easy to give back. I was one of the few that got to take a trip to Arrowmont this year when I came up to help Pat Thomas marble a couple hundred napkins for the fundraiser. And but I also think about, you know, people giving money for, you know, when I first started there, we would give Friends of Arrowmont, you know, $30, and then maybe it got up to 50, and then maybe 100 or something. And as our circumstances improved, we tried to give more back. But I was thinking about the annual report. When you look at it, there's a short list of people that give a lot of money, and there's a real long list of people that give whatever they can. And it's all important. And maybe somehow don't realize, well, you know, even if I can only send this much, it's going to make a difference.
I agree. And Julia, I'm sure you agree too. I mean, every gift, especially this year,
every gift is so important. And I think that a lot of times people think, well, I'm not able to give that much, but every single dollar matters. Every piece of artwork matters. Every volunteer hour matters. And that's one thing I've especially learned to appreciate is when artists give of their work. That's a very special thing, because especially if there are artists that are they're doing that as they're making a living through their art, you know, that's a really valuable commodity. So I think that no matter how people look at their involvement with the school and what they're able to give, whether it's dollars or time or artwork, it's all important.
I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the behind the scenes, like some of the hidden facets that happen that people may not know about. So Vernon, I want to start with you, and I want to ask you, like, when you and Anita got that windfall from your aunt and you decided to start the scholarship, what were the steps that you went through to make that happen?
Just talk to Fran. And it was fairly simple. It's not often too difficult to give away money, but set it up kind of the way we wanted, and I talked about it, and so I think, you know, it's going to be a good thing for somebody. If we felt good being able to do it, because we got a lot from the school.
So I'll make sure that I put in the chat bar Fran Day's contact information. So that'll make it
She
all.
would appreciate that.
George, yeah.
Well, one thing that I think a lot of folks don't know, and we talk about giving and what we can do, is that based on the giving, I don't know, nobody really knows, but Arrowmont has been able to keep their entire staff employed during this wild times that we're going to, that we're going through. There's so many companies out there that people have been laid off, and I think, to me, that says a whole lot about the school. They made sure that the folks there were taken care of. The school continued to function. They didn't lose their place. I think that the folks there, whether they worked in the kitchen or in the front office or whatever, they've been able to, to keep that focus on the school, not letting the school fall back. And then when this pandemic thing is over, you had to, really hustle to catch up. I think the school right now is staying right where they need to be. They're keeping the folks there, and I think that's really that's admirable to the to the folks that's working there and to the donors that are making sure that this happens.
And I've noticed that there's a lot of improvements going on campus. What the brief time I was there in the fall, it's like you're replacing the windows in the building. I had a friend who was in charge of energy for a state university, and it's like the price isn't going down. All you can do is try to use less. And I've often thought about that, sitting in that huge fiber studio on a humid July day, going, man, who's paying for this? Keep this place cool. So it's really I think it's gonna make a big difference. It's gonna help, and to have the time available now to do that, and the people.
Yeah.
We've been really lucky. And I like to say that it's not really luck. It's been a lot of hard work that's gone on to secure the funding, to retain the staff, and to keep things moving. And we're in the middle right now of a large renovation project here in the main building where most of the studios are housed. And it's everything top to bottom, from replacement of the roof to lighting, more energy efficient lighting, more energy efficient windows, everything. We're going to completely repaint the building. We've been working in almost every single building on campus to try to refurbish what needed to be done. And we've had a real backlog of repairs and maintenance projects, just because when you're programming all year round, it seems like it's hard to find that window of time. So as unfortunate as this pandemic has been, it has offered us up the time to do some of these things that really needed some attention.
And Julia, can you put just a number on what Vernon was describing? Do you how much are we going to save in the heating and air conditioning and the utilities of the Turner building, the main Turner building, with the new it's like the double argon glass that's energy efficient lighting fixtures, new roof, and everything?
I think it's going to be remarkable, the amount of money we're going to be able to save. And it, of course, it will be over, it won't be immediate, but it will be as you go over time, the cost of what it has cost to redo everything. And we've done it through a granting process and through matching dollars of our own. Vernon's right. The heating and cooling bills for this building alone are astronomical. And so it's like a big cavern, so once, and it wasn't just the windows too. Another thing that we also had to do was go in and put insulation in all of this block, and they had to drill down through the cinder blocks and shoot insulation down in between everything into the walls. So it's been quite a process, and I think that we're going to see a real difference once summer gets back and we get people in the studios and everything starts moving along like normal again. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, being here on campus and getting to see every day, all the buildings and a lot of the staff members who are able to stay employed through the support that we're getting and the planning of our senior directors, such as yourself, Julia, is that we have people in the maintenance department who are fixing up dorms, and people in the kitchen who are painting, and the studio technicians who are helping with kind of all facets all across the campus.
The staff's been amazing. I think that it's not lost on anyone that we are very lucky to have been able to retain the whole staff. And so whenever they've been able to plug into different areas, it's not been, that's not my job. It's not in my job description. It's, we're going to do what we have to do to keep things moving.
So I want to ask, and this might be more directed to you, Julia, but Linda asked whether Arrowmont is going to be doing any more online auctions.
I don't think that we have anything else planned for this year, but I think that going into next year, that the Starry Night event may be similar to how the Meet the Artist event was earlier this past month. And so I think there's definitely going to be some opportunities going forward for us to have online auctions. That was an event that was extremely successful in how it was pulled off, and just again being on both sides of it, seeing everyone's excitement during that event, I think that it's something we'll definitely continue to do.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit as well, Linda. Yeah, where there's two kind of major live auctions that Arrowmont has done over the last few years. One is in the spring. It's called Starry Night. And usually that's on campus, and it's an art and wine auction. And then we have a big clear tent and get to eat and dance under the stars. And then in the fall, we have had a board member, Janet Harper, who has hosted us in the Harper Audi dealership in Knoxville. And so we've invited people to come together for a reception and a live auction and a lovely dinner together. This year we weren't able to have any in-person events with the pandemic. So in the fall, and this is what Vernon came onto campus to help us do, is we created a hybrid event for Meet the Artist, which is the fall auction. And we had the online auction, which I think, which was very successful. Every single piece brought in at least its stated value, if not more. And then, so we had that 2-week online auction, and then the day of the event, we delivered catered meals, a 4-course catered meal to people in East Tennessee in the community who were within driving distance. And then that evening we did a Zoom event similar to this, where we announced all of the auction winners. So in the spring of 2021, we have our Starry Night event, and I do believe the plan will be to do another hybrid event, because it's hard to plan for any in-person things until until we can be fully confident of everyone's health and safety. So E.P. Chad asked a question and said, Arrowmont is so successful at building and maintaining community with folks from around the country and the world, which thank you for saying that, and asked if we can touch on strategies for keeping the community connected. So I kind of want to open that up to all of you, since you're all integrally involved with Arrowmont, either through your service, your volunteerism, your being friends, being on the staff. What are the strategies for staying connected? I know for myself as the communications manager, that's all I try to do all the time is keep connected with people. But how does it look on your end?
Well, to me, just looking at it from wanting to hurry up and get back on campus, and from the board's perspective, I think that there's a lot behind the scenes that we're going to make those folks that have come to Arrowmont. They're doing a lot more electronic sort of, I won't call it advertising, but just making people aware where the school is. I sort of look back at the time when, and I'm sure a lot of folks remember when we had the fire there. Everybody sort of thought that sort of was going to be the end, but they kept people involved. Even though I didn't go that particular year of the fire, you knew what was going on, and I think that's the most important thing. I talked to one person, they talked to two, and it's sort of that thing of involving everybody. And you really have a really active board. Like I said, I'm brand new with the board, but I'm seeing a lot of activity on the board's part with making those folks that sort of make the wheels turn aware of what we need to do. to doing that. So I think that's the big thing. We just got to let people know. And I think, once again, that's the big advantage of the schools staying involved, keeping everybody involved with the school. So when there is the time, you can just jump right back in there. Because I know I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. There's a ton of people here that can't wait to get back. Everybody looked forward to being there. So I think that's the big advantage, just keeping everybody involved and letting people know.
I think all the work that Deborah and her team and Fran have been doing, constantly trying to keep us out in front of people's consciousness, not trying to be overbearing in the message, but carrying one that lets people know we're still here, we're doing everything that we can to remain relevant, and that we're still planning on moving forward once everything is behind us. And they've done an amazing job keeping people informed and doing these roundtables. And Kelsey Dillo has also been doing roundtables with instructors, and it's been important because it keeps people engaged. And I think that lets people know that we're still here and we're still working on things, even though we're not having classes.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that has been brought up that you guys have each touched on is just that the community that's built when you come to Arrowmont is so strong and enduring and in a lot of ways very life-changing. But that community and that connection doesn't go away when you leave. It lives on in each one of us. And for those of us here on campus, it's something that we think about all the time. And when the pandemic hit and we realized it was going to be, we weren't necessarily going to be able to know when we would be able to bring people back on campus. It was so important to find meaningful ways to support artists who have been so hard hit by this pandemic as well. Everyone in our community are artists or aspiring artists and art lovers. And, it's our mission to make sure their lives are, fulfilled. Finding it's in one way, I would say for myself as the communications manager, I'm so glad that so many people are getting more comfortable with technology like what we are experiencing today, so that there is a way to connect with one another. It's even when we come to a new normal and we're past the current pandemic, I think still being able to connect with your friends and connect with your instructors and connect with your fellow work studies and connect with, your classmates beyond the week that you're able to maybe be on campus in person. I think that will be an enduring thing that across the board people are comfortable with. So I see a lot of opportunities that I'm excited about, even once we start having people back on campus, which we will in 2021. Carl Rosler and Jana both say hi, and they're interested in hearing everyone's favorite spot on campus.
Mine is no longer here.
Really?
My favorite spot, there was a little sculpture garden that was situated in between Hughes Hall and Loud Wing, and when we had the fire, of course, it was destroyed. But there's so many great spots on campus. I know, just to get to walk through the gallery and see the work, and go up to the resident studios when they have open studios and go through and see that process. It's very inspiring.
And I know one of Janice's favorite spots is on the porch at the staff house.
Well,
And Carl's new place might be the new porch up at the new dorm. At least we sat there and took advantage of it the last time we were there.
My favorite spot since I've been going has always been the porch. I like the new porch a little more, but I just look back at the years of sitting up on that porch and you're meeting all the different artists. We'd sit there in the evenings and just talking and sharing stuff, and just that's where I've really developed just a ton of, relationships and friends, for years. So that's my favorite spot after the studios, of course, but I love the porch.
But I've been there. I've got to be an assistant 5 different occasions during the 2-week sessions, which is, a whole different kind of feeling going on. It's a lot more, you can get a lot more work done in 2 weeks than you can in 1 week.
Right.
But the really cool place to hang out would be if they were having a wood firing. I was there once when I guess maybe the last time they fired the Onagama kiln. So it's 3 days, people there around the clock and burning, I think, 7 cords of wood. And it's just it's a great place. You can go there any time of day or night and hang out, and also get to listen to the instructors teaching these students the intricacies of this fire-breathing monster that's buried in the ground there.
That is a very cool experience to see the Onagama kiln fired.
And my favorite spot is the courtyard in between the Marion Hurd Resource Center, the library, and the main auditorium. There's a beautiful mural that James Ellers painted there last summer, and you can sit there and you can look up at the mountains, and there's all these there's some sculptures there, and that to me feels like there's a little fire pit. When I got to take a workshop last year, and I remember specifically looking forward to having a fire and sitting out there and looking at the view and just taking in the whole environment. So, well, we're just about at the end of the hour, but I wanted to go around and give each of you guys, just ask you for your last thoughts on what it is, like kind of the I guess the top-down view from the top of the skyscraper. Like, what is it about giving back to the arts and giving to Arrowmont that brings you the most joy?
One of the things I've seen is the number of work studies or studio assistants who have come back to be residents. I think I'm up to 5 now. And that's just amazing. People I might have been washing dishes next to, or they're there as the resident artist. It's quite a step,
Just top down, I look forward to Arrowmont being bigger and better than it was before this. Like I said, I refer back to the fire and look at where we came out of that. So I think there'll be tremendous growth.
And I guess for me, I've been so lucky to be here for 20 years, and I've made some amazing friends, and I've gotten to meet some fabulously creative people who I later on have gotten to call friend. And seeing that process, seeing that work, seeing the impact that donors can have on the school has made me want to continue to give back in any way that I can, and I encourage my family to give back. And it truly is a gem in this community, in the community at large, because there's nothing quite like it. And for it to go on and sustain itself is extremely important. So I look forward to what the future holds and what's next. And I'll be ready for everybody to get back on campus.
I agree. Well, it's been a wonderful opportunity to come together with you guys. Thank you so much, Julia, Vernon, and George, for being here with me and with all of us, and for sharing your insights and some of the, again, lifting the curtain a little bit to bring people in to know what it really means to give back to the arts and to give back to Arrowmont. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and winter and stays safe and healthy. You will get an announcement later today, the 2021 national workshops. All of the workshop descriptions are now on our website, and so you can see the schedule for next year and you can start to get excited. Registration will open February 1st of 2021 for the 2021 national workshops. And then this conversation is being recorded. It will be released later this week, and it'll be available on our YouTube channel, on our website, and it'll be promoted on our social media as well. So thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day, And stay in touch. Let us know how you're doing. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.